Eagles make their way to Foxborough for a little training camp competition. Brown left quite the mark in Philly, winning a Super Bowl and recording over 5,000 receiving yards and 32 touchdowns over 62 total games. However, was vocal about his displeasure in the offensive scheme, which ultimately led to his trade to the Patriots. Sal Paolantonio joins us live now from Foxborough ahead of Patriots and Eagles joint practice. And Sal, you were around A.J. Brown his entire career in Philadelphia. How different is the vibe now with Brown out there in Foxborough?
Good morning, Amina. I'm going to give you 3 words. It is connection, collaboration, and commitment. Let's start with connection. Let's take a look at this photograph inside the Patriots' new practice facility. There you see A.J. Brown's locker right next to quarterback Drake May. In that picture, taken by our very own Mike Reese, by the way, is John Stryker, VP of Patriots Ops and Strategy. They put them together so they could connect. In Philadelphia, A.J. Brown was housed with the wide receivers. Jalen Hurts was housed by the quarterbacks. But the Patriots have been committed from the very beginning to get these 2 guys together. And that has followed over into these practices here at training camp and after practice. A.J. Brown and Drake May have both talked about the collaboration that the 2 of them have had in one-on-one film study after practice, going over different routes, making sure they're on the same page, going through what the coaches call target tape. Very, very important, because A.J. Brown only caught 64% of his targets last year. Stephon Diggs, here in New England, when he was here last year, caught 89% of his targets. That led the National Football League. So you want to get those targets. Drake May's got to be on time and on target to A.J. Brown, and then commitment. A.J. Brown, doesn't matter how hot it's been out here, they've had 18 practices in training camp, and A.J. Brown has been on the field for every single one. And today, on August 19th, is the 19th practice. And let me tell you, Amita, you said a little training camp competition between the Pats and the Eagles. They know little about it. I mean, it's going to be big.
Look, trust me, I've seen it for myself out there in Foxborough. I know things can get chippy between the Eagles and the Patriots when they have joint practice out there. Sal Paolantonio with the latest. Thanks so much, Sal.
All right, let's continue this conversation and bring in NFL analyst Louis Riddick for his thoughts. I'm curious, Louis, how you think A.J. Brown will now affect that wide receiver room there in New England and the offense as a whole.
Look, every offense wants a true number one, a guy who they know that they can park outside the numbers in a got-to-have-it situation, and he's going to win in contested catch situations, regardless of the fact that the opposing team knows that they're coming to him. And A.J. has shown throughout his career, both when he was with Tennessee and when he was with Philadelphia, that he can do that. And he's a guy who's not just limited to being an outside lane player. He really is the kind of guy who can control the middle of the field area between the numbers, which is quite honestly the easiest throws for a quarterback. It's the shortest distance that the ball has to travel. When you throw the ball over the middle, A.J. can do that. And look, Josh McDaniels has talked about the fact that this is a guy who, from a physical perspective, is about as impressive as it gets. He compared him to Rob Gronkowski in terms of his physical presence with his size and his strength. I mean, that's the kind of thing that every quarterback wants. And really, he fits into the bigger picture when you're talking about the wide receiver room. Think about the connection now and really the kind of like chemistry that he should have with a guy like Romeo Doubs and how they should be able to play off of one another. Hunter Henry at tight end, the way that they have a two-headed monster at running back. This offense should be humming.
Yeah, the team that went to the Super Bowl last year, only getting better on that side of the ball. Let's look at the other team, the team that Brown leaves, in the Philadelphia Eagles. When you look at their offensive huddle, who needs to account for what is now missing with Brown gone?
Yeah, there's no doubt that it's Devontae Smith. He's the guy who kind of gets thrust into the spotlight now, and it's really nothing new for him. He has done this before throughout his career, whether you're talking about at the University of Alabama or when they called upon him to be the guy who could really get open and win in one-on-one situations, whether it be from the Z, the X, or the slot position in Philadelphia. And you're seeing these clips here on your screen right now that show you there is not a route that he cannot run. There's not a position that he can't line up in. He's a guy who can catch the football down the field. He can take the catch and run situations and turn them into big plays. He just needs help now from the guys who you see on your screen, like the Tavian Wicks, who they get from Green Bay, who has had a strong camp. Mekhi Lemon, who needs to get on the football field, get that hamstring healthy and be ready to go. And Hollywood Brown has been a serviceable, dependable player throughout his career in the National Football League. But this is the Devontae Smith show. And I think he now, in this new offense being run by Sean Mannion, should have the chance to really flourish and shine as a true number one. And I expect nothing less from him.
Yeah, could have a monster season if you are a fantasy player. He could be a wide receiver one if he comes through in Brown's absence. Catch Lewis and Uncle Sal on Get Up at the top of the hour. Lewis, Riddick, thank you. Together for a little joint soiree on Tuesday in Oxnard. More WWE than NFL. At one point, Saints tight end Brock Rechsteiner, the son of WWE Hall of Famer Scotty Big Papa Pump Steiner, was punched by Cowboys corner Kalen Carson and then suplexed another Cowboys player to the turf. Here's Brian Schottenheimer on what he saw.
A little chippy, not the way we like to do business. Got to be better, but I got to look at the film. We're certainly not going to take, from anybody. But again, it was chippy on both sides, and like I said, I want our guys to play on the edge without going over the edge. One guy sounds like he might have thrown a punch, and that's why he left practice.
And them cold front hanging over the Tide, which is frozen outside the top 10 at number 13 for the first time in 17 years. Why? Well, who's their starting quarterback? Keelan Russell, Austin Mack, yet to be determined. And where's that running game going? Nowhere fast against Georgia in the SEC championship game, -3 rushing yards. And then in the ACC, there's a tropical storm. No, make that a hurricane warning, because the Canes are still the team to beat. Darian Mensah, the transfer quarterback, he's got one of his favorite targets coming over, wide receiver from Duke. But he's got to get 4 new starters on the offensive line going quickly. And remember that #1 pass rush defense? They've got to get some new starters there after an exodus to the NFL. So, Canes are the team to beat. But we'll see what happens this year.
Oh, I love to hear that, Heather. Also, I'm glad that we're inside with the way that weather was going down in that report. North Carolina named veteran transfer Billy Edwards Jr. as their starting quarterback for the season opener against TCU in Ireland. Now, Bill Belichick and company did not quite deliver last season, going 4-8. So how can Edwards and the Tar Heels turn things around this season?
Well, even with Edwards as the answer, as their starting quarterback now, there's still a lot of questions because remember, he only played in 5 games at Wisconsin before he was injured, and he comes into this job 8-8 as a starter. So the good news for North Carolina is their passing game can only go up. It was the 2nd worst overall in the ACC last year and the worst in passing touchdowns with just 12. But here's the problem. Look at their schedule. ESPN's FPI projects they are going to win just 4 of these games. And if you look at the very first 4 games, this team could be 1-3. It's going to be a really interesting matchup with TCU overseas. ESPN's FPI says the only one of those games it's going to win is against Week 2 against East Tennessee.
Yeah, uphill sledding for UNC, it looks like this season. Heather Dinich with the latest. Thanks so much, Heather. All right, still ahead, Sal Palantonio joins us ahead of Eagles-Patriots joint practice. A.J. Brown welcoming old friends to his new place, what he's building in New England, starting with a strong foundation out there.